Today, I have appointed the following individuals and others who have been moved to different ministries. I will be forwarding to Parliament the name of Margaret Kobia to be the Cabinet Secretary for the Public Service, Youth, and Gender Affairs. Working with her in the newly created position of Chief Administrative Secretary will be Rachel Shabesh. The Permanent Secretary for Public Service and Youth will be Lillian Omolo. The Principal Secretary for Gender will be Safina Kwekwe. As I mentioned earlier, I had forwarded the name of the Honorable John Munyes, who will be appointed, once vetted, to the Ministry of Petroleum and Mining. The PS in the Ministry of Petroleum will be Andrew Kamau Nganga. The Ministry of Devolution and ASAL areas will be headed by the Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa. The Chief Administrative Secretary will be Hussein Dado. The Permanent Secretary for ASAL will be Michael Powon. The PS for Devolution, we will be forwarding the name of Nelson Marwa to assume that position. The Ministry of Defense, we have reassigned Rachel Omamo. The CAS will be announced, and the PS will continue to be Torome Saitoti. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Trade, I have submitted to Parliament the name of Monica Juma to be the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs. The Chief Administrative Secretary will be Ababu Namwamba, and the PS Foreign Affairs will be Ambassador Macharia Kamau. The PS Trade will be, International Trade, will be Chris Kipto. The Ministry of Water and Sanitation, I have forwarded the name to Parliament of Simon Chelugui. The Chief Administrative Secretary, Winnie Guchu, and the PS will be announced. The Ministry of Environment and Forestry, I have forwarded the name of Kiriaiko Tobiko as the Cabinet Secretary, and the PS will continue to be Charles Sunkuli. The Ministry of Industrialization and Enterprise Development, we've reassigned Cabinet Secretary Aden Mohammed to continue. The PS Industrialization, Betty Minor, and the PS for Enterprise Development will be announced shortly. The Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure Development, the Cabinet Secretary will be James Masharia. The Chief Administrative Secretary, Mr. Chris Obure. The PS Transport, Paul Maringa. The PS Infrastructure, Julius Korir. And the PS Shipping and Maritime, Nancy Karigidu. The Ministry of Information, Communication and Technology, the Cabinet Secretary will be Joseph Mushero. The CAS and PS will be announced at a later date. The National Treasury
Just lost a signal there, but we'll be able to cross back once we get it. And he was at the National Treasury Ministry so far, naming at least 10 ministries and the appointments that and the names that he's putting forward to Parliament. And of course, starting there with the public service and saying that Margaret Kobia will be the CS. And the big news here as well being that he has created a new post, and a new post being the Chief Administrative Secretary in all the ministries, and the role therein will be to be supporting the minister in coordinating the affairs within the ministries. And just some of the names that have been put forward so far as we wait to get back on is that Margaret Kobia is the CS Public Service and Youth and Gender Affairs, and the Chief Administrative Secretary here being Rachel Shebesh, and John Munez retained, of course, not retained, but was announced 21 days ago, and once vetted should be confirmed as a CS Petroleum and Mining, and the PS Andrew Kamau Nganga. And some of these positions, the CAS, the Chief Administrative Secretary, and the PS and the different portfolios are yet to be announced. It just says to be announced later. I'll be giving more of the names as we try to get this particular signal back from State House. He was just about to name the new appointees within the Treasury, and of course Henry Rotich should be remaining there, and we'll get the names of the others, the CAS and the PS. But first, as we wait on that, residents of Namanga on the Kenyatta, that will wait actually. Let's get back, the signal is back.
Ali Boga, PS Fisheries will be announced, as will the PS Irrigation. The Ministry of Health will be headed by Cabinet Secretary Cicely Kariuki. The CAS will be Rashid Aman, and the PS, I have forwarded the name of Peter Tum to Parliament. Sports and Heritage. The Minister or Cabinet Secretary is Rashid Achesa Mohammed. The PS Sports will be Peter Kaberia, and the PS Heritage will be Josfeta Mkobe. The Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife. The Cabinet Secretary is Najib Balala. The CAS will be announced, as will the PS Tourism. The PS Wildlife will be Margaret Mwakema. The Ministry of Education. The Cabinet Secretary, Amina Mohammed. The CAS will be Honorable Kachapin. The PS Early Learning and Basic Education, Dr. Belio Kipsang. The PS University Education and Research, Professor Japheth Mesheni Ntiba. The PS Post-Training and Skills Development will be Zainab Hussein. The Ministry of Lands, I have forwarded the name for Cabinet Secretary to Parliament of Farida Karone. The CAS will be Gideon Mungaro, and the PS will continue to be Nicholas Muraguri. Labor and Social Protection, I have forwarded the name of Ukur Yatani for Cabinet Secretary, the CAS, Abdul Bahari, PS Social Protection, Pensions, and Senior Citizen Affairs will continue to be Susan Mwachache. The Ministry of East Africa Community and Northern Corridor Development, I have forwarded the name to Parliament of Mr. Peter Munya. The CAS will be Ken Obura, and the PS will be named in due course. I have also co-opted into Cabinet on a need basis the Honorable Raphael Tuju. Further, I have nominated the following to the post of ambassador, and their names will be forwarded to Parliament. Begin by Judy Wahungu, who I nominate for the post of ambassador to France, Dr. Cleofa Mailu, who I nominate to the permanent mission of the UN in Geneva, Kiema Kilonzo, who will be our new High Commissioner to Uganda, Dan Kazungu, who will be our nominee for the High Commissioner to Tanzania, Lazarus Amayo has also been moved to the permanent mission of the United Nations in New York, and Phyllis Kandie will be our nominee for ambassador to Belgium and Luxembourg, as well as the European Union. Willie Bett will be our nominee for High Commissioner to India, Jacob Kaimenyi, our nominee to the permanent mission to UNESCO in Paris, and Hassan Wario Arero